Hello everybody, it's great to see a room almost full regarding the treatment, or indeed the pre-treatment for multiply excluded people. I lead a small NHS counselling service for homeless people in Westminster, and the experience of my colleagues, Paul, Daniel, myself, has been that homeless people, as you all know, I'm sure, find it extremely difficult to engage with mainstream treatment programs. So as a service, we've been developing what we call pre-treatment therapy, which is based on Jay Levy's, an American practitioner and also an American writer, of his pre-treatment principles, but developed much more regarding outreach work and linking rough sleepers in with mainstream housing services. So this gave us the idea of, wow, if this can be done in a different context, like social working, outreach work, maybe we can use those principles, but in the context of counselling or psychotherapy, which is why we're calling our approach pre-treatment therapy. As you know, mainstream services tend to assume that homeless people have a fixed abode. When we think of ourselves and our own lives and our homes, we immediately realize the fundamental advantages having a safe, secure, comfortable, private space, and what that enables us to do. It enables us to relax, to recharge our batteries, to seek and get comfort, to replenish our resources, maybe to think through what difficulties we may have in peace and quiet, and for us to plan our lives, for us to plan our way around or past the problems life is throwing at us. Now, as we all know, these are the very things that are lacking for homeless people. Even homeless people with some kind of accommodation may not have the privacy, may not have the peace and quiet, may not have access to the internet to access information or the tools needed to move on. Yet, all of these assumptions are made, and most services, mainstream services, make these assumptions that homeless people are just like us, except that they don't have a home. And the implications, the psychological as well as the physical implications of not having a home, are not even thought about. Of course, the other assumption is that people who are homeless can engage with and sustain a regular, structured treatment relationship. They can come to appointments on a regular basis. They have no other pressures, of course. They have no other appointments to go to. They have no other survival needs to meet, like when's the next soup kitchen, or where can they get out of the cold. There is again this assumption that people have the luxury of being able to choose when and how to go to a fixed appointment. As we all know, when people miss several appointments, they're discharged. They're deemed beyond help, or they're deemed as not wanting help. We all know this, and I know I'm talking to the converted. Pre-treatment therapy aims at establishing or re-establishing the psychological resources or the psychological resilience which we all need, especially in the face of challenges, but taking into account the chaos of homelessness. So as a service, we decided to offer the following. So we have drop-in sessions. We do have fixed appointments, but the majority of our contact is via drop-ins. We have whole morning and afternoon sessions where people can just walk off the street as and when suits them. Everybody will be seen, everybody's hand shaken, everybody will be made welcome and offered a cup of tea. I will apologize to people if the waiting room was crowded and they've had to wait maybe an hour and a half to see me. I will thank them for their patience and we will begin our chat. The whole focus of a drop-in session is to encourage someone to come back, is to make sure that that first contact has produced something of value, not for me, not for the service, but for the person who's made the effort to come and seek us out. So we try for an emotional connection. We try and use everyday language, and we will signpost that person if that person has concrete material needs, which we all know they do. So that first point of contact is seen as a vital opportunity from which to build further contacts, which hopefully will lead on to eventual ability to engage with mainstream services. We also offer drop-in groups. We've heard earlier on somebody, I believe, make the plea for us to take into account very seriously the power of groups like Alcoholics Anonymous, AA, the informal structure, but the structure and the space that's provided. And we've taken that very seriously in our service, and we provide, again, walk-in groups based on AA principles and co-facilitated with ex-service users, of whom, Paul, we are very privileged to have. 5 minutes. I'm running out of time, so I'm going to speed up, so please bear with me. We do also offer structured appointments because a third of our drop-ins do want to move on to structured appointments. And that's where, of course, there is an opportunity to begin the preliminary work of therapy, which is making senseless, purposeless suffering meaningful and purposeful. But that's a stage down the road. All of these are available to the same person. They can make use of all three at the same time. And when somebody especially is in a crisis, we will offer telephone and email contact. People make very little use of that, but it seems to be a very supportive, very enabling thing to have. People have expressed great gratitude for that. There are implications for working in this way, one of which is boundaries. That we are as transparent as possible about our boundaries, about the need for boundaries, and we'll explore with people their inabilities to meet the boundaries and what support they need to feel that they can meet those boundaries. And transgression of the boundaries will not lead to automatic discharge or exclusion. We'll work with that. We'll try and understand what's happened and how it can be prevented again. We recognize that recovery is not linear, that there are always relapses upon the way, but that we can learn from relapses. And we use the stages of change model to guide us here. And we offer a patient choice as to the rate of recovery, as to their rate of engagement. For example, the drop-ins, some people drop in once a month, maybe every week. maybe twice a week. The person has a menu of choice which they use as appropriate to them. And obviously we will try and offer support to try and stabilize their circumstances and the chaos that ensues from that. Of course, there's a whole issue of post-treatment. A lot of people have said to us, as soon as I get better, all the support's withdrawn. And then, of course, we know relapse is likely to occur. So we try and offer post-treatment support in the form of leavers groups, in the form of inviting and welcoming service users to co-facilitate new groups with us, and also to give testimony in the written form by publishing, or indeed at conferences and speaking publicly. So that's me for now. And I've got great pleasure in inviting Paul Ashton, who's been very inspirational in helping us develop our service and this approach.
Hi, folks. Kind of trying to follow on from what John was saying. In terms of the pre-treatment approach, I'm trying to think of times when, I come from Manchester originally, and in Manchester, I lived on the streets for 20 years. I was homeless for about 20 years. And when I came to London in 2003, it's an interesting contrast. I mean, obviously London's a vastly bigger city than Manchester, but in that 20 years that I was homeless on the streets of Manchester, not once did I get seen by an outreach worker or anybody, any homeless organisations whatsoever, ever, interacted with me. And then when I came to London, there was like, I fended them off. It was like, there was loads, go away. It was like, it was just such a contrast. And it's interesting, I love what John's doing, because the thing is that it's a very humanistic approach. Do you know what I mean? It's meeting the person on that same level. Do you know what I mean? It's like, obviously there has to be professional boundaries, obviously, but it's trying to meet that person where they're at, sort of thing, and communicate with them on their level. And in the hopes that we can plant a seed that will help them to think, well, because when I was homeless, I based myself around Waterloo train station, around that sort of area. And I've said this in the film, if you see the little film that was there yesterday, that when I was homeless and I was sat on the street, and I was the stereotypical tramp, I had the beard, I had hair back then, and my clothes could have walked off on their own, do you know what I mean? I'd worn them that long. And I used to watch people like yourselves going to and fro to work, yeah? And you were like an alien race to me. Do you know what I mean? I swear to God, I used to sit there, I literally used to pause and think, how do you do that? How do you have a job? How do you maintain that? I had no idea, absolutely no idea how you did that. Do you know what I mean? And so, like I say, you were just an incredible mystery to me. And so I seriously believed that I would never be like you guys. Do you know what I mean? That I would never do any of these things. Standing on a stage in a conference, speaking to people like this, I would never imagine. If you'd said that to me back in 2003, I would have had you lot locked up. Do you know what I mean? Because I would have thought you were mad, because I seriously believed I would die on the street, because I'd lived that way for so long. And it's people like John that, are doing this sort of work that, helped me to realise that, actually, Paul, you've got potential. You can do something with your life. And, it's just been an incredible journey. And I love working with John, and he's introduced me to so many interesting people and amazing people. And like I say, the work that we do, hopefully, is worthwhile. I'm kind of running out of things to say, actually. Sorry, I'm drying up. Sorry, I'm very nervous. I don't know what else to say right now, sorry. Right, thanks. I ran out of time. Sorry.